Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Sarah Fensky. Everyone's favorite outdoor musical theater had to cancel its summer season, but that doesn't mean you can't enjoy its offerings. The Muny is now offering weekly variety hours. They're a star-studded mix of never-before-aired clips from past Muny shows, cast reunion sing-alongs, song and dance performances by Muny artists, and best of all, they're online, so you can watch from the comfort of your couch, no fear of catching a virus. And joining us with some highlights is the Muny's artistic director and executive producer, Mike Isaacson. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Sarah.
So you started the summer in June by streaming exclusive footage from a concert series called Muny Magic at the Sheldon, and those were such a hit, fans actually crashed your website. What made you decide to switch to a variety show?
Well, it was sort of that horrifying question we all faced. What do we do? What can we do? What's our history? What's our responsibility? And we were, pretty much in April and May when we saw what was probably coming. We had to really scramble and do some deep thinking. And we'd had the Sheldon concerts. We had basically recorded them for ourselves.
Mm.
So we had those, and we knew that those would help us start out to see if we could do this. Then there was the incredible Arts United endeavor in St. Louis, where everybody hopped in and created for that benefit.
Mm-hmm. There was that benefit concert. It brought
Right.
together arts organizations from around the
Right.
city, almost like a telethon.
Right. And everyone tiptoed, and that's where we made sort of essentially our first video, and we quickly saw, oh, we can do this. So then we said, all right, let's go for it. And honestly, the variety concept, it was a couple things. It was, if you're of a certain age, you sort of remember these things from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was sort of a summer idea. And it also, variety gave us a great deal of flexibility as we were figuring out what is this and what could we do and what could we create and who was available. So it, to be honest, it kind of bought us some time. And then once we knew what it was, and we also had to, the archive clips, this is unprecedented. I had to go to, essentially almost, 8, 9 different organizations to get temporary approval to do this because they're very restricted. They're only for historical and educational use. So that took some time to get that done.
And so that's even with your own archives. Is that because there's various unions involved representing the performers?
Yes. Right.
Okay.
And also we don't, when we do Annie on our stage, I don't own Annie. I'm just sort of licensing it for a week. So then ultimately have to get permission from all the rights holders to do this.
So was it hard to get the kind of permissions you needed to be able to put on substantive clips and not just these little 10-second things that sometimes they let people use?
I will say that, at this moment, which is, a crisis in the performing arts, people are listening and cooperating in a different way. And we're very fortunate. People love the Muny. So when I could get through to people and ask the questions and say, here's what we're doing and here's the limitations, they were, incredibly supportive and very loved the idea and loved being a part of it. So it was just a lot of hurdles to get through the door. But once I got through the door, everybody was really, really incredible.
So all the goodwill you've built up over the years, it's now coming back to you. People were willing to be flexible.
Well, it's also a moment where throughout the performing arts, we've got to support each other. We've got to help everybody, essentially stay alive during this incredibly challenging period. So we have to look at things that are normally in place and say, look, can we bend this for a while, or can we dismiss this, or what can we learn in this new world? So for the most part, everybody's doing that.
Mm-hmm. So this is a hard time for the performing arts. It feels like for most of us who have office jobs, we can kind of keep doing what we're doing. We miss out on the joy that you'd get from, say, going to a theater performance on a Saturday, but our day-to-day life isn't so changed. How are you doing in the middle of all this when you can't do what you've been doing every summer? You can't put on these Muny shows that make people so happy.
Yeah, it's awful. And it's strange, it's a pandemic, so everybody's struggling. You sort of participate in that. I think what's happening for everybody in the theater, we were the first to be declared non-essential, which I get as sort of a clinical term, but it's kind of harsh. And for you look at life in the theater, I don't care who you are, it's a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough opportunity. It's a tough life. So everybody, but it's a choice, and people feel compelled to create, and they want to do it, and they want to be a part of it, and they've structured their lives around it. So not only can't they do it, they don't know when they'll be back. And in time, it's getting harder and harder, because the essence of it, there's this incredible interview with Audra McDonald, New Yorker, this week, and she uses a phrase that I just love, which she talks about missing the holy communion between people on stage and the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in the theater, you believe that, you truly believe that. And I believe that about the Muny. I believe that it's a very special place, and we're together. It's extraordinary. So it's tough. It's tough.
And that virtual connection, I've enjoyed so many things that one can see on one's computer, and it is great not to have to worry about parking. But let's be honest, it's just not quite the same as that communion, to steal Audra McDonald's word. Is that hard? I mean, you're putting all this work into these variety shows, and I know you're so happy with what you've produced and the response you've gotten, but does it still feel like something essential is missing?
Yes, I think what has been great so far, we're 2 shows in, and we've got 3 more to go. Was our first show, our numbers are like more than 30,000 people watched it, which was
Wow,
incredible.
30,000?
Yeah, no,
How does that
30,000.
compare to, say, the average show at the Muny?
Well, we're 10,000 seats, so that's kind of half of a run of a show, or near half.
So that's got
So
to
we
feel
were,
good.
yeah, it felt good, but it was also, you mean, I don't know, but it just felt like people wanted to tap into this experience, this thing that, I mean, the thing about, so you had to, as compared, it's not theater, and you just have to own that it's not theater. But, the Muny is a big idea in many ways. It's got this history and how we serve the community and this sense of ritual. And so part of it was, okay, let's do this live, which recreates that idea of people gathering, and it's only here right now, which is what theater is. Then let's do 5, so it's sort of Monday nights, which is kind of that Muny thing. So we tried to recreate as best we could certain aspects of what the Muny experience is. And then we reached out to artists who have been on our stage, and they've created works. And then when you see the clips of the shows, it's kind of mind-boggling, because there's the incredible scope and the trees and the orchestra, and you go, wow, that's the most beautiful and painful part, is you just see this and go, oh, wow, we're missing that, but boy, that's amazing. So, you have to own that it's not theater, because we are not together, but we can use it to celebrate that, to remind, to, weave people through it, and we've been doing pieces on backstage, I mean, certainly performing artists are getting attention, but, people backstage, our stage crew, our wardrobe, hair, everybody, our technicians, our designers, they're all out of work. And this is their work. This is their work too. They gave and they created for this. So it's a big, complicated idea.
Yeah, there is a lot to recommend these. And, even if you don't have the full communion, as you say, there's still the frisson of it being live, and the idea something could go catastrophically wrong. And then there's also the joy of seeing these old clips. And I want to play one of the highlights here today. This is a rising Broadway star. Her name is Nkeki Obimele Lekwe. I'm sure I just bungled that.
Nkeki Obimele Lekwe.
Oh, you do it so well.
Yes.
I should have just deferred to you.
Yes.
And she now is just the hottest thing on Broadway. Up until the pandemic happened, she was playing Tina Turner on Broadway. And here she is. She's performing If You Knew My Story from Bright Star.
If you knew my story, my heaven and my hell, if you knew my story, you'd have a good story to tell me. I'm not alone.
So that is a big name right now, and I'm not going to bungle it again by trying to pronounce it. But Mike, how did you manage to land her for this variety hour that you're producing?
Well, here's the thing. The Muny has always been historically the birthplace and the starting place for so many great Broadway artists. We have a tradition of having like the top college talent who are part of our summer seasons, and these people go on to major careers. So Nkeki was literally 2 years ago in our ensemble of All Shook Up. And then, I mean, there is a sense of community, and we all keep track of each other, and you sort of just know what everybody's doing. And there was a Broadway musical I was working on, and we did a development reading of it, and she was a part of that. So we always kept touch. And then I was actually trying to get her for a show at the Muny, and the cast agent said, she's taken. What's, you're not gonna be able to get her. And I just sort of squeezed it out of him. I said, where is she? And he goes, well, she's going to go into Tina Turner in London. So I texted her. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, at that point, you have to understand why she might be too busy to do the Muny.
Yeah. And then I happened to be over in London when she was in rehearsals, and we had this amazing breakfast, and, just sort of, I mean, what a leap for a young person. And she's just incredible. So we sort of talked about that because, that kind of part when you're holding up a show, that's an unbelievable responsibility. And she just took it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, when I was putting together the show, I knew she was at her parents' house in North Carolina, and I called her and I said, hey, you want to do something? She's like, absolutely. So we did it.
That's awesome. And another highlight, this is again from one of the Muny's new variety hours. These air on Monday at 8:15, and then they're replayed again. If you can't catch Monday, they air on Thursdays. That's also at 8:15, correct?
Yes.
So this is another highlight. This is from a past Muny production. It's actually the 2013 production of Spamalot. And this was a show that starred John O'Hurley, who, of course, is known as Mr. Peterman on Seinfeld. So let's listen to a very apt song for our time right now. It's Always Look on the Bright Side of Life from Spamalot.
And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the right side of life. For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain.
Okay, so I have to ask a John O'Hurley question. He just seems like such a fabulous guy, but we always think of Mr. Peterman. What is he like when he's not playing that role and is just talking to you person to person?
Completely delightful, very funny, incredibly low-key, and a true theater beast. That's actually his background before Seinfeld and all of that. In fact, he was at the Muny sometime in the 80s in a production of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, and then he came back after Spamalot, and he starred opposite Beth Level in our production of Hello, Dolly. And he is such a professional and such a joy to work with. And he loves, within the company, he was sort of the there's always in the company, you find somebody who's like the party planner, who's arranging, okay, here's where everybody's meeting for dinner. And O'Hurley would get into town. He would work every restaurant owner. And suddenly he'd be like, okay, I got us a room for 8:00 at such and such restaurant. And the whole cast and, crew would go off. It would just be fantastic. He's an amazing human being.
So he is not a diva at all. He is there for his colleagues.
Yeah, he's great.
That's great. Well, so that song, Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, I did want to end our conversation today by asking you, I know you have such an encyclopedic knowledge of Broadway, and right now with just all the sadness in the world and just everything that we're all dealing with, I sometimes like to turn to Broadway songs as a little pick-me-up. I'm wondering, do you have a favorite song from a Broadway show that you turn to when you need a smile on your face?
Oh, wow. Right now, I'm very keyed into, it's actually last year we did a revised version of Paint Your Wagon, and it replaced the song, I Can't Wait Till Tomorrow Comes. And we actually used it to close our first show. That cast reunited on our first variety show. And that's sort of been on my sort of, repeat to keep me going through. We're going to have next week's show. We're going to end with a reunion of the cast of Annie singing Tomorrow, which is always an amazing anthem. But there's a lot in the Broadway canon. I also, I can be a Sondheim guy. So he wrote this song for Merrily We Roll Along called Now You Know, which is actually my all-time favorite lyric of any Broadway song ever. And he has the line in there. It's called Letting Go Your Illusions and Don't Confuse Them with Dreams.
Wow.
And that's, it's the whole lyric is just amazing. It's on Merrily We Roll Along, or there's even a better version when they did Sondheim on Sondheim. He did it expanded and added a verse or two that's even more amazing. It's Leslie Kritzer singing it. But there's sort of this clear view, honest human perspective of what to do at moments like this.
Wow.
And I've been listening to that a lot.
Well, that is such a good pro tip. Now you know the Stephen Sondheim song from Merrily We Roll Along. I know what I am going to be streaming this afternoon. And I also love this tomorrow theme. I can't wait till tomorrow comes and tomorrow. These are some good songs for the moment we're in. And again, this Muny variety show, this is a great show for the moment we're in. So I hope people will catch this Monday nights, then again on Thursdays, 8:15. You can catch it at youtube.com/themunytv. We'll also have that on our website. That's stlpublicradio.org. So Mike Isaacson of the Muny, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. This was delightful.
This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio. That's 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from Missouri Forest Products Association, committed to sustainable and sound conservation of the state's forests, which support more than 41,000 Missouri jobs, resulting in a $10 billion industry. ChooseWood.com.